Alright. Hello. My name is William Vasquez, and this is my project. First, I'm going to be showing up the drivers. So, driver school DB. This is just the first section of the project, but it asks you to take in this initial text here, DB, ingest it, make sense of it, and update it. Okay. So, and then I also have the second part, which is CLI. You go ahead. It prompts you, it asks you what kind you want to make, and then you put in the parameters of the whichever you want to make, like faculties or courses or students, and then it writes it into this updated file. And then I'll go ahead and show the classes. It's just following the instructions. Okay. So I made this helper function here. It basically just takes in whatever string that holds numbers, makes it into an integer, puts into the result. If there's more, you go ahead and make it into a tens and add it, hundreds add it. That'll be that. And then there's another helper function because these have a certain way of being formatted. So there should be a true and a false. It just goes ahead and takes whatever you need, breaks it by this section here, this colon here, and then you go ahead and get your parts. You go ahead and put your parts in. However many parts there are. Usually courses, they have their full parts, but faculties and students, they actually have a varying amount, so that's why I need different cases for those. That's shown here. They're usually full. General staff, this one isn't full. This doesn't have everything either. This faculty doesn't either. But courses seem to. So that was more practical. It made more sense. And yeah, it's just breaking it down, putting it in based on the constructor that's overloaded. Okay. And then these are the different sorting functions they just ask you to make. Course at index. Well, these are getter. These are like getting from some index and seeing if it actually is there. These are the actual sortings from least to greatest, getting the minimum to maximum, printing at least and most credits. This here, this is just because the requirements were to print out the file, the initial file as is, so just going down, printing the file stuff. And then this is to go ahead and actually write everything into more organized way. And it was basically I used array lists to just put them all into a collection and then just write all of them out using the .2 strings. And then making sure I had a proper formatting for everything as well. And I close that. Alright, so this is another helper function that is specific to the initial. It's basically just taking all of this and actually putting them into the arrays, condensing them, using the build object, putting them into the arrays so that way, excuse me, where this could actually be written out here. It would make more sense if I just like put them more in order. It's like how they're used, but it's fine. And then this is just my main, actually creating the arrays list that are being put through, like so. And then, yeah, just displaying the initial file, then writing all the objects to the updated file, and then displaying that, which I'm going to show. Yeah, it's just this here. The original file, the initial, and then the actual condensed and organized version. That's that. And then the CLI. Basically, it's reusing a whole bunch of functions. Still the same write, the same build, the same string. Same idea here. Same idea. Just reusing the functions, but this is the actual part here that's being run. gives you a menu, gives you some options, using the string to int again to get the option. And then it asks you all these questions here, then to finally build and add the course, for example, or the faculty. And then it goes ahead and writes all the objects that it's updated. And if it's not an option, I guess, a valid option, you gotta do something else. And then they're just making these lists again, and then just running that one function, which is like this. Alright, goes ahead and gives you the options. Say I want to make a course, I want the graduate to be true, and I want the course to be 101, and the department is CMP, and number of credits is like 3. It tells you what you actually made, and if you want to continue making another one, it continues asking the same questions. If you don't want to, just go ahead and get out of there, exit, and you can make something else, like the department name. Say if I want to like the math department, and then if their tenure is true, and then it gives you this. And you go exit. No. Exit. Okay, fine, press exit for everything. There we go. Alright. And then this is the same idea for the general staff and the students. And then press exit. Now that writes everything. Once you actually press exit. So then we go ahead and go to the updated. We have this here. This is the one I just made. They're tenured, they're in the math. It's me accidentally pressing EAT. That's also in there. And then I press exit and everything, so I just put everything to its default values. And this is also the class that I made here. Yeah, that's the CLI, that's the DB. And then, okay, getting pretty close on time here. So then this is just the idea. Courses. I went ahead and used my comparable course. Just to go ahead and override a compare to. This is my new version here. Overriding the equals, overriding the toString. Getters. This is just the making of that constructor. And the same idea all the way through. Just show the person. So this I chose to make implement, but it is not parameterized. And I also made it so it uses object other and it actually casts to a person, because further down the line, like faculty, for example, you will need to have. Okay, let me just show it actually. Okay, so faculty extends employee, and then employee extends person. So then that means this whole entire chain is going to be using the implement. And I figured out that you cannot use multiple implements and also have different parameters. You can only have one implement with one parameter, which would be the original, which is person. So that's why I decided not to put a parameter and just make the compare to take an object. So that way as you go down, you could always just cast down. So say I came from faculty, and faculty, it can't decide what is actually going on. So it'll go down into employee. Wait, let me actually, well, let me show that. Okay, so because I had a lot of those errors, was giving me 0, so I went ahead and just gave it to the super, which is super is employee. So it'll start with faculty, and I go down to the employee, it'll cast to the employee, then it'll ask again, and if there's still a problem, it'll go all the way back to person, which hopefully, which in actual cases it did indeed fix it. And so I'm out of time basically. It's basically the same thing for everything and student. Alright, that was my project.